It is Sunday school. And today it will almost seem like Sunday school because of the loose subject matter that I'm going to discuss for a little while here. Yesterday, I shared some snippets, if you will, uh, a Crowley writing on death itself, because Uh, we had the privilege to attend a beautiful memorial Gnostic Mass here in Sacramento on, I guess it was Friday night, and I talked about it yesterday. And today, a little later today, at 6 o'clock, I guess, the 418 Oasis OTO is doing a mass, a regularly scheduled mass. Constance and I are going to be attending that also, because you know, the mass is so beautiful and inspiring and wonderful. We just try to attend every chance we get. And for years and years and years, Constance and I celebrated Mass at Haru-Raha Lodge, and as guest priests and priestesses, priestess all over the world, actually. Um, we have a soft spot in our heart for this beautiful, beautiful Eucharistic celebration. When I'm asked for advice about the Gnostic Mass, when a priest or a priestess asks advice, we always encourage people to attend and witness other masses, Roman Catholic or Greek or Russian Orthodox services, because much of the Gnostic Mass is patterned off of the Orthodox Christian Mass. It's sort of the scaffolding, the formula, the modular formula of the Mass, which is perfectly sound magical, a magical ceremony. At least the format certainly is, and it's a wonderful format for Crowley to follow. He was inspired to write the Gnostic Mass after seeing a beautiful Mass being celebrated at St. Basil's or Basil, however you want to say it, in Moscow. And he looked at that Mass and said, that Mass is almost perfect. Okay, it's almost perfect. And as a matter of fact, when you look at it from a wide point of view, all worship services are almost perfect. Okay, it's not so much that this the deity isn't being invoked, isn't being honored, isn't being utilized or evoked. It's all the other bullshit that goes with along with the religion that is celebrating that particular rite. But for the individual members, I would sneak off to Roman Catholic service at St. Bonaventure in Columbus, Nebraska, which, according to my mother, was like sneaking into the Church of Satan, you know. but I just love the smell, the pageantry, the mystical egregore uh, in that church. And even though that I wasn't Roman Catholic, and even though I didn't believe in Jesus, even it was awesome. It was off. It was a spiritual experience for me. And not only that, but in Columbus, Nebraska, in those years, 60 some years ago, uh, there was a lot of old German and Polish and Czech uh, people attending, mostly old ladies who didn't speak English very well, even, and they were in babushkas, the scarf over their head, and I watched those toothless, saintly, the the look in their eyes was they were seeing into eternity. They were seeing something that was far more mystical than any of the doctrines or dogma of any particular religion. They were looking at Jesus when they opened their little toothless mouth and took that host. So there's something super magical going on, and we always encouraged the clergy or novitiate clergy of the uh, EGC to go attend and watch and learn uh, from viewing other services, especially those that were operating the same formula as Crowley wrote the Gnostic Mass. Not only does it do you technically see what's going on, how the priest actually holds his hands as he's holding the host, or as he's elevating the cup, and every movement. Okay, you don't just every movement is an act of worship. But anyway, yesterday I read the death collect, or the end collect of the Gnostic Mass, and I thought I would share more about that section of the Gnostic Mass that's called the collects, and the technically in an Orthodox definition of the term. The collect is a prayer that concludes the opening rite of the Mass. And that's pretty much where it appears in the Gnostic Mass, too. The deacon actually intones the collects. It happens at a point in the Mass where the priestess has gotten the priest out of the tomb in a beautiful little ceremony, and the priest has and the priestess has knelt and stroked the priest's lance, literally, 11 times, and then the priest, she's on her knees to do that, and then the priest raises her up. Thee therefore for whom we adore, we also invoke. So we've got this male and female thing going, which was not overtly shown in that Russian Orthodox Mass that Crowley said. There's only one thing missing in this thing, and that's a priestess. Okay. So then the priest elevates the priestess. She acts sort of as the Ruach. Okay. She draws her Ruachian sword to get the priest out of the tomb. So the Ruach awakens the Neshama. It's been dead and sleeping in the tomb. So Vav gets Hey final out of the tomb. Then he raises her up, puts her on the altar, getting her ready to be the first Hey of Yod Hey Vav Hey and getting ready to make him the Yod. Are you following this? Never mind. The colics happen when the priest has gotten the priestess on the altar and has turned her into the goddess. Or she has become the goddess. Now it's his turn to become the god. She has become, sitting on the altar, Nuit. But he's not yet Hadit. He's not yet there. And he's still on his knees worshiping her. He's on his knees in gaga, sloppy adoration. He's got to get a hold of himself and rise up. And in order to do that, the deacon, in a sense, who is the voice that's sort of narrating this whole thing, helps him get inspired enough to get off of his knees, take control of himself. And in order to do that, the deacon has to remind him that others have gotten a hold of themselves to do it in the past, and that he is a link in this wonderful, magical chain of magicians. And he does that most technically in one of the colics, which Crowley, unfortunately, in my opinion, names the saints. But it's not the saints, it's all the male principles. Okay, the female principle is covered in another colic, but he should have named it something else, in my opinion, besides the saints. But anyway, here is the definition of a colic from an Orthodox point of view. Prayer that concludes the opening of rites of the Mass. The colic invites people to pray in silence for a moment, and then offers a prayer to God that is drawn from the readings or the feast or the purpose for which the Mass is being altered. And an example of that in an Orthodox ceremony, this is a colic. O Almighty God, who hast knit together thine elect in one communion and fellowship in the mystical body of thy Son, Christ our Lord, grant us grace so to follow thy blessed saints in all virtuous and godly living, that we may come to those unspeakable joys which thou hast prepared for them in that unfeigningly love thee. Okay. This is what Constance and I, in our lengthy Mass seminar, say about the colics. The colics of the Gnostic Mass appear to be more on the order of prayers or petitions rather than invocations. Like Orpheus, the deacon is singing praise to all the important things in the spiritual universe and asking for the special blessing that each can bestow. And there are 11 colics: the sun, the Lord, the moon, the lady, that's where we get the female-ish end of things, the saints, and that's where we get the male-ish end of things, the earth, the principles, birth, marriage, death, and the end. Now, it's been my privilege for several years running. I think I was chaplain of my Masonic Lodge for at least 2 years. Um, and I had the privilege of writing my own prayers for different occasions and stuff. There's monitorial prayers that are provided, but then there are those that the chaplain is encouraged to write their own. And I love that role because Masons are asked or are told or are instructed to pay rational homage to the deity. Rational homage to the deity. And unfortunately, many Masons forget that, but Masons are people too. Rational homage to the deity. So the deity, the Masonic deity, is generic with a capital G. And it was a wonderful exercise to write prayers to that generic, rational deity. So anyway, I'm going to share with you the collects. It's very short, and I said there's 11. When Constance and I celebrate Mass, we ask our deacon to actually say the title of each of the collects to sort of, first of all, it doesn't say that they're not. And then secondly, I think it's important for the congregation to know what the collect is going in. So this happens after the opening of the ceremony. Again, the priest is on his knees at the altar in front of the priestess. She's already attained the level of spiritual integrity that the priest is still in the process of gaining himself. Of the office of the collects, which are 11 in number, the son. Remember, this is the deacon talking. The son, Lord visible and sensible, of whom this earth is but a frozen spark, turning about thee with annual and diurnal motion, source of light, source of life. Let thy perpetual radiance hearten us to continual labor and enjoyment, so that we are constant partakers of thy bounty, we may, in our particular orbit, give out life, sustenance, and joy to them that revolve about us, without diminution of substance or effulgence forever. And all the people respond to each of these, so mote it be. The Lord. And in the sexual, I guess, the sexual application or the sexual view of this Gnostic Mass as a sort of a cosmic sex magic operation, creative act. The Lord is pretty much seen as the huge universal cosmic phallus, okay, just like Hokmah. And the big cosmic yoni is like Bina, or if you're Hindu, Shiva and Shakti. Okay. The Lord. Lord, secret and most holy, source of life, source of love, source of liberty, be thou ever constant and mighty within us, force of energy, fire of motion. With diligence let us ever labor with thee, that we may remain in thine abundant joy. So mote it be. The moon. Lady of night, that turning ever about us, art now visible and now invisible in thy season. Be thou favorable to hunters and lovers, and to all men that toil upon the earth, and to all mariners upon the sea. So mote it be. The lady. Now, I'm going to digress again just for a second. Remember the phallus, the universalness of the phallus in the aspect of the Lord. This is the lady. So this would be the big cosmic yoni, call it. The lady, giver and receiver of joy, gate of life and love. Be thou ever ready, thou and thine handmaiden, in thine office of gladness. So mote it be. The saints. Lord of life and joy, that art the might of man. Okay, and that's a small m. Okay, man. That art the essence of every true God, and that's a small g, God. That is upon the surface of the earth, continuing knowledge from generation unto generation. Thou adored upon us, of us upon heaths and in woods, on mountains and in caves, openly in the marketplaces and secretly in the chambers of our houses, in temples of gold and ivory and marble, as in these other temples of our bodies. We worthily commemorate them worthy, that did of old adore thee, and manifest thy glory unto men. Okay. And that's where our modern sensitivities just go. It's just men saints? Geez, weren't there women that, perpetuated this great form of worship? Of course there were. He's getting at something else here. Okay. Manifest thy glory unto men. And remember, the priest is on his knees, immobilized in literally drooling rapture. Okay. The Mass isn't going to continue unless he's inspired by his ancestors of men that did get themselves off their knees. So, or male gods. Okay. So, I guess Crowley couldn't foresee the modern sensitivities of, gee, you're going overboard on that, Crowley, but he did. Okay. So there's all of these male aspects, Lao Tzu and Siddhartha, and Krishna and Tahuti, Moshe, Dionysus, Mohammed, and Tumegatherion. Those are the Maguses. With these also Hermes, Pan, Priapus, Osiris, and Melchizedek, Chem and Amun and Mentu, Heracles, Orpheus and Odysseus, with Virgilius, Catullus, Marthaei, Rabelais, Swinburne, and many an holy bard, Apollonius Tyaneus, Simon Magus, Manes, Pythagoras, Basilides, Valentinus, Bardesanes, and Hippolytus, that transmitted the light of the Gnosis to us, their successors and their heirs, with Merlin, Arthur, Camuret, Parsifal, and many another prophet, priest, and king, that bore the lance and the cup, the sword and disc against the heathen. And these also, Carolus Magnus and his paladins, with William of Schreien, Friedrich of Hohenstaufen, Roger Bacon, Jacobus Burgundus Malensis, the martyr, Christian Rosenkreuz, Ulrich von Hutten, Paracelsus, Michael Mayer, Roderick Borgia, Pope Alexander VI, Jacob Bemy, Francis Bacon, Lord Verulam, Andre, Robertus de Fluctibus, Johannes D., Sir Edward Kelly, Thomas Vaughan, Elias Ashmole, Molinas, Adam Weishaupt, Wolfgang von Goethe, Lodovicus Rex Bavaria, Richard Wagner, Alphonse Louis Constant, Friedrich Nietzsche, Hargrave Jennings, Karl Kellner, Furlong II, Sir Richard Francis Knight, Paul Gauguin, Sir Richard Francis Burton, Dr. Gerard Uncas, Theodore Royce, and and now Grady L. McMurtry, and Harry Smith, and Sir Aleister Crowley. O sons of the lion and the snake, right there, those are the male alchemical elements. Okay, it's not the daughters of the serpent and the eagle. Okay, it's an alchemical thing. There's nothing chauvinistic about the alchemical principles involved here. Where the chauvinism is I think Crowley's inability to understand why the fuck did you call these saints? Okay. But anyway, I digress. O sons of the lion and the snake, with all thy saints we worthily commemorate them worthy that were and all are to come. May their essence be present, potent, puissant, and paternal to perfect this feast. Now, Crowley was not above using the phallic P repeatedly like that just to drive the point, just to drive the point home, okay? Now, I got to also add that at each one of those names, and those are all the names, there's italicized names that make that section go a little faster. But at each one of those names, the deacon standing between the fire altar and the font, and the priest up at the high altar kneeling down in front of it, the priest draws an astral cross on the base, or at least toward the base of the priest's spine, as if this hero is going to inspire you to get off your knees. This hero is going to, you see what I mean? That was a big digression. The next colic is the earth. Mother of fertility, on whose breast lieth water, whose cheek is caressed by air, and whose heart is the sun's fire. Womb of all life, recurring grace of seasons, answer favorable the prayer of labor, and to pastors and husbandmen be thou propitious. So mote it be. The principles. Now, principles from an alchemical point of view would be like the three alchemical elements, sulfur, salt, and mercury, which would translate to the Hebrew mother letters, Aleph, Mem, Shin, which correspond to up, down, right, left, front, back. Okay, the three principles that actually form the cube of space. And then there's the 7 planetary spheres. Excuse me. Then there's the elements: fire, water, air, and earth. So that's the 4 thing. So there's 3 alchemical things, the 4 elements, and the 7 planetary spheres. Okay. Okay. The principles: mysterious energy, triform, mysterious matter in 4-fold and 7-fold division, the interplay of which things weave the veil of life upon the face of the spirit. Let there be harmony and beauty in your mystic loves, that in us may be health and wealth and strength and divine pleasure according to the law of liberty. Let each pursue his will as a strong man that rejoiceth on his way, as the course of a star that blazeth forever among the joyous company of heaven. Wow. So mote it be. Birth. Be the hour auspicious, and the gate of life open in peace and in well-being, so that she that beareth children may rejoice, and the babe catch life with both hands. So mote it be. Marriage. Upon all that this day unite with love under will, let fall success. May strength and skill unite to bring forth ecstasy, and beauty answer beauty. So mote it be. Death. And here the congregation that has been seated so far during this section, the congregation stands up. They don't bow their heads for the death collect. They raise their heads high. Term of all that liveth, whose name is inscrutable, be favorable unto us in thine hour. So mote it be. The end. And this is the one we talked about yesterday. Unto them whose eyes the veil of life hath fallen, may there be granted the accomplishment of their will, their true wills, whether they will absorption in the infinite, or to be united with their chosen and preferred, or to be in contemplation, or to be at peace, or to achieve the labor and heroism of incarnation on this planet or another, or in any star or aught else. Unto them may be granted the accomplishment of their wills, yea, the accomplishment of their wills. Aum. 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 So mote it be. That gets the priest up off his knees, and the consecration of the elements, which is the next section of the Mass, can now happen. Anyway, that's Sunday school for today. And that's my little editorial thing. I'm not excusing Crowley's the wisdom of certain ways that he handled things. Please know that as a document, the Gnostic Mass is not a Class A document, and you can study and tinker with it all you want. To actually call it an EGC Gnostic Mass, though, it actually technically and politely should follow the script as it is written. But it's for each of us. The Mass is not for the priest and priestess. They're doing magic for the congregation. And the priest actually says that at the very beginning. To administer the virtues to the brethren. When the priestess gets him off of his knees after he gets out of the tomb, she tells him that thou mayest administer the virtues to the brethren. And then he answers back, well, how should I be worthy to administer the virtues to the brethren? So when you attend a Gnostic Mass, you're not watching other people doing magic for themselves. You're watching other people doing magic for you. So what is currently the object of your heart's desire? And that's what a Gnostic Mass is being celebrated for you to do. Anyway, that's Sunday school for today. Constance and I are privileged to go see a Mass this afternoon, and we're looking forward to it a lot. Until tomorrow, continue to be good to yourself, be good to each other. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law, love under will.